The full moon rises on another episode of Werewolf Gaming, where...
Tear my enemy to shreds.
Whoa, sorry, don't know where that came from. This episode is going to be about a beloved MMO that defines all others in the genre, and...
Gilneas will rise again!
Okay, the joke's getting old really fast, so let's dive right into this week's episode all about the World of Warcraft's Cataclysm expansion. And of course, the Alliance Edition, the Worgen.
Worgen hard, or hardly Worgen?
Sorry, I'll stop. For those of you who have been living under a rock for the past decade, World of Warcraft is an MMORPG, or massively multiplayer online role-playing game. With millions of players across the globe, it's the most successful and one of the longest-running games of its genre, and undoubtedly the most famous, getting new expansions every few years and constant patching and updates. The third expansion, Cataclysm, introduced quite a few new things to the game, such as new areas, old areas that have been remodeled ever since, the archaeology skill that everybody totally loves and is not tedious at all, and most notably the addition of 2 new races, one for the Horde and one for the Alliance. The Horde gained goblin allies and the Alliance? Well, we got the Worgen, the werewolves of Azeroth. This is still Werewolf Gaming, isn't it? Were you expecting any less? Now, I'm not about to go into the extensive lore of the World of Warcraft, especially when others have already put up videos about the subject doing a much better job of explaining than I ever could. I'll put a couple lore videos in the description for the curious, but for the rest of you, here's the extreme footnote version of the Worgen lore of the World of Warcraft. Long ago, Night Elf Druids tried to do a thing that went way too far, becoming permanently stuck in their feral animal forms. Their feral Night Elves trapped them in another dimension using a fancy pants scythe, and they would stay in that dimension until a guy named Jitters would find the scythe and accidentally unleash the feral Worgen back to Azeroth, which would also taint the southern half of the Elven Forest, turning into the Duskwood of today. At the same time, the ruler of the human nation of Gilneas, Lord Greymane, built a giant wall to keep anything in or out of his kingdom, which really backfired when Worgen, summoned by Lord Alrugal of the Shadowfang Keep outside the Gilnean walls, invaded his city and his citizens had nowhere to go, causing Gilneas to become a tainted ghost town of monsters. Even Greymane couldn't hide from the curse and became infected himself. And as Gilnean alchemists began working on making their Worgen friends and family sentient again, a rift began between the infected and uninfected Gilneas, but that was pretty much meaningless because the Forsaken, the zombies of Warcraft lore, attacked the weakened Gilnean nation, causing them to flee with their Night Elf allies, which introduced Gilneas and the Worgen back into the Alliance. I'm not kidding when I say that is just the footnote edition. Gameplay-wise, Worgen function basically the same as other races, though thanks to their perks, they have leaning towards some classes more than others, like a perk that allows them easier skinning, or a perk that increases their shadow damage output. Though that doesn't mean you can't just play whatever the heck you want in spite of all that. It should probably come as no surprise that I, myself, main a Worgen Discipline priest during my time on Warcraft. The guy was even named... Hairhawk. I can't escape. I can't escape! But that's a talk for another day. And that's all I have to say about the Worgen race, other than the fact that Gilneas is heavily based on a mix of Gothic and Victorian era aesthetics. And, well, that's really all I have to say about that. Sorry, folks. Still, for a 10-year-old game, World of Warcraft continues to impress and draw in players, giving us races of all different sizes, shapes, and cultures to play as, and to be whoever or whatever we want. And that's a pretty amazing feat that shouldn't be overlooked. Oh no, that ending was too nice. I need a joke to end this on.
Did you know I'm a Worgen donor?
That'll work. So tune in next time as we take a look at a Twilight Wolf. No, not that Twilight. Yes, that Twilight. So until then, happy gaming, and I'll see you when the next moon rises. For the Alliance!